All right. Yes. So I'm going to demonstrate a fun little thing I made. It basically checks if a number is prime. You give it a focus, you slap this artifact, and it tells you it's prime. So let's just, for example, set this abacus to, how do you make it? Okay, hold on. Let's get a new abacus really quick, because I forgot how to change it by increments. Anyway, so number 12, for example, definitely not prime. So I'm just going to read this. Yep. Slap it into the focus here. So now our little focus over here contains 12, right? Then I slap this prime checker. Boom, the Thoth's Gambit sounds. And this focus helpfully tells me that 12 is not in fact prime. But if I change this to, 23 is prime. If I change this now, we read right to this focus here, and bam, now 23 is prime. So the way this works is kind of complicated. I've broken it up into a group of spells, essentially. So we have basically a couple of spells. The first thing it does is read from the focus. Then it creates a range from 1 up to the value in the focus, like in a list. It creates like 1, 2, if the focus is 8, it does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a list. It removes the first and last entries in a list, because obviously a number will divide by 1 in itself. Because what this list is for is every number that we want to check divisibility for. I know it's inefficient, but it's the easiest way to do this. So we remove the first and last number, which would be 1 and the number itself, which of course the number is going to be divisible by. Then we do a Thoth's Gambit. So for every item in the list, we do a Thoth's Gambit. So we go through every item in the list. We check. First, we divide it by the number. We divide it by, or we divide the number in the focus by that number. Then we copy that, we floor our result, and we check if they're equal. Because if the number's perfectly divisible, the floor of the division is going to be the exact same as the division itself. So like 8 over 4 is 4, the floor is 4 is 4. 8 over 3 is 8/3, like, I don't know. But the floor of 8/3 is not equal to 8/3 because it has a decimal. So if it's equal, we push 1 and then 0 to the stack, and then perform Augur's distillation. I don't remember what it is. But basically, we convert that. If it's true, we convert it to a 1, and if it's false, we convert it to a 0. We get the number in the Raven Mind, and the Raven Mind has 0 from... It has 0 from when we did the list, when we created that original range. So we get it, we add whatever number we got to the Raven Mind, and then we move on to the next number. And we save it to the Raven Mind at the end. And then after that, we check. Is the Raven Mind equal to 0? Because if the Raven Mind is anything other than 0, that means something evenly divided our number and it's not prime. So if it's equal to 0 and the number's prime, and we save it to the focus, and if it's not, it's false. So we say false to the focus, and that's how this works. So I'm going to do a simplified example. I have a lot of foci here that are just various helper functions. So this thing, for example, creates the list, creates that range. This sets up our list. This is the code for the Thoth divisibility stuff. And then this is actually just a temporary thing that I had for testing, so we're going to ignore that. So let me just have an example. I'm going to set our abacus to 8, just so it's easier, and save that to our focus. Perfect. And we're going to put away the artifact for now. So the first thing is this range. So I'm going to quickly read from the focus. And basically, all this focus right here holds the code for our range generation code. So what this does, I'm not going to draw out the whole symbols for it, but what it does is basically take the number, put it into the Raven Mind, then do a Thoth's Gambit take the number, put it into the Raven mind, then create a list of that number that's that number long. So create a list of 8s that's 8 numbers long. Then for each item in that list, subtract 1 from the Raven mind, subtract that number that we just got from the Raven mind from the number in the list, or whatever the Thoth's Gambit is, and then move on. Because the Raven mind is persistent across Thoth's Gambit, if like what starts in the Raven mind is 8, we subtract 1 and get 7. 8 minus 7 is 1. Then and then the next iteration we have 7. 7 minus 1 is 6. Then we get 2, right? So if I were to draw it out, I'm going to erase this in a minute. But basically, what it would do is, step 1, read from the Raven mind. So, well, let's do this. We need to conserve space because there's actually some long code here. Step 1, read from the Raven mind. Step 2, this is 1, and then we're going to add, or this is -1 right there. Then we're going to add that. We're going to copy it. We're going to save it into the Raven mind because these Raven mind actions are actually destructive. They remove something from the stack. Then we're going to perform a subtraction distillation right here. Subtract, and then that's it. So this is our little this is the Thoth's Gambit that actually the code does there. In this case, I'm just going to run a Hermes Gambit, and it will generate our list here. And you notice that there's a 0 in the Raven mind already once we're doing our setup, right? So I'm actually going to erase this and grab our little temporary list over here that I had. Just bring it over here and then write 0 to the Raven mind so we're consistent. That should be like this. Yeah. Okay. Now our list setup, what it does, oh, well, the list setup already did this, but what it did is it just removed the first item in the list and then reversed the list and removed that first item in the list again, just because it's easier like that. So we end up with a list that looks like this, right? Now what we do is we have our Thoth's Gambit code. So what it's going to do, I'm actually going to write this out because it's important. First thing it's going to do is we'll already have, when we actually do the Thoths, we'll have what's in the iota already on the stack. I just haven't done that yet because what would actually happen is that's what actually happened. So we'd already, because Thoth's Gambit preserves the stack aside from those first 2 elements, and because of the way that the division distillation works, we need to do it this way. So what we'll do is essentially divide. So this is the division, because what we'll have is in this case 8, and then we'll have 7. So we do 8 over 7. We copy it. We floor it. Then we check if they're equal. This is checking if it was divisible. We convert it to a number. Now you have to do it a bit of a roundabout way. So you push 1 to the stack, then you push 0 to the stack, and then you perform augurs, I forget, distillation, purification, whatever. Basically, it checks the third item on the stack. If it's true, it keeps the second item on the stack. If it's false, it keeps the first item on the stack. And I just screwed that up. That should be a 1, not a 0. Great. Okay. Well, hold on. Let me just try this again then. Fortunately, we have this list, and we can just do set the Raven mind to 0 again, like this. Nope. Set the Raven mind to 0 again, like this. Perfect. Now, once again, the Thoth's code, we're going to divide. Yep. Copy. Floor, check equal. Convert that to a number through the handy roundabout way. And I'm just writing them in a weird order to save space. And then perform the augurs. Then we get the Raven mind, because the Raven mind will have a running total of divisibility. Add, so basically add the 1 or the 0 that we just got. Then save the Raven mind. And that's it. So, yeah. What we'll do is we'll first of all, rotate these because this list needs to be on top. We'll also read from our focus and shove this onto the bottom with one of the rotation gambits. Let me just quickly find a reference for it's going to be rotation gambit 2 just to move this top to the bottom because I should have had it here earlier. Let me just make sure I have this order right. Yeah. Yes, put the 8 on the bottom, and then we do our thoths. Hopefully I got this right first try. Yeah, and see, so we have a 2 in the Raven Mind here, which means that 8 was divisible by 2 items in that list, and that makes sense. It was 4 and 2, so we know it's false. And in general, that's how the prime checker works. This artifact right here, this prime checker, basically the only thing it does, it just reads from this focus, the number that we actually want to check. It reads from that focus. It converts it into the list. Actually, yeah, it reads from the focus, converts it into a list, reads from the focus again, reverses it, because if you have it already to keep that 8 on the bottom for the thoths, it puts the thoths, the division code in, reverses that to get in the proper order, does the thoths, checks if the Raven Mind is equal to 0, and then saves that result to the just saves that result to the focus. It's just all of the preparatory stuff that it was doing earlier, that I was doing by hand. So now I think this iota still has 8. Yeah, so if we run this, boom, I love that noise. We have the false here because it is not, in fact, prime. Anyway, that is a little Thoth's Gambit there. Not Thoth's Gambit, the prime checker. So hope you learned a thing or two. I love this mod so much.